Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the backdoors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
Hello, everybody. This is Jay here with another episode of the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So we got some really cool stuff to talk about this week, this episode, so let's just jump right in. So the first I'm going to talk about is, and one has to know, I know it's early, I know it's, a month early, but what can I say? Hollywood loves doing this. I mean, I had this year some, books I read that, were in like September and October for Christmas. Yep, I sure did. I also got some movies, before that they were like, hey, check this out in September when Halloween's a month away. Sure. So Hollywood loves doing stuff like this. They love doing their, movies, a month early. They like doing their, TV shows, all that stuff. They like to do it, early sometimes. And holiday films, especially Christmas films, are no exception. They love bringing those things out, in November. Sometimes, usually in November is when they come out. So, and this is one that looks rather interesting. This is a Netflix exclusive movie that's going to have Kurt Russell in it. And I remember when I heard about it, I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. It's a little weird, though, because we've gotten stories like this before. I mean, that focus on Santa Claus. Elf kind of did that. Heck, Santa Claus the movie absolutely did that. We've had a lot of animated films, just films that have focused on Santa the character. Heck, Rankin and Bass did Santa Claus, the Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. They did Santa Claus the movie. They did The Year Without a Santa Claus. So there's been a number of stories out there that focus on Santa. A lot of animated ones, recently some live action ones. Tim Allen did 3 Santa Claus movies. Not 1, not 2, but 3 of them. So we've gotten a lot of movies about Santa Claus. They actually did a couple years ago a live action version of The Year Without a Santa Claus too. Not bad, but I wouldn't say you have to run out and see it now. It's just the reality. So anyways, so they had released the first trailer for this movie called The Christmas Chronicles, is basically what it's called. And it gave you a basic idea, how Santa Claus is going to look, how the elves are going to look, how the North Pole is going to look. And basically, Santa is very different in this from how we've seen in previous films. It's just the way it is, right? And I think Kurt Russell playing the character has something to do with that. But I will say, when I watched the first trailer, I was like, looks interesting. I'm intrigued. I'm curious. I'd like to know more. So, anyways, so they had a second trailer come out recently that I just finally watched today. And I have to say, I definitely enjoyed it. So this trailer shows you the 2 main characters, a brother and a sister, who get left alone on Christmas Eve because their mom has to go work. And the sister decides, let's try to catch Santa Claus on film. Why not? Sounds like a good idea. Sounds like fun. Maybe it's something we should do. And the brother, of course, is going, are you nuts? There's no such thing as Santa Claus. No one's ever seen Santa Claus or caught a photo of him or a video of him or anything. And what happens is, in this trailer, as we see it, they find his sleigh. They sneak onto his sleigh. They surprise Santa by popping out, and then Santa crashes. So we get to see in this trailer the plot of the film, which in a nutshell is Santa Claus needs their help to make Christmas happen because, his sleigh has been damaged. He's lost all his reindeer. So we get to see the elves in action, which they look kind of silly, but we get to see a few good comedic scenes with them here. And really, this is going to be, like I said, a different Santa. Kurt Russell kind of almost has an Elvis quality to this Santa Claus. But yeah, we get to see like where they say, hey, we'll help you. We get to see kind of like an Elf. We get to see where Christmas spirit isn't as strong as it used to be. We actually get to see a lot more in this of Kurt Russell as Santa Claus in action, because the first trailer, we didn't get to see as much of that. It really was almost like a teaser than a trailer. It's just the way it was. I remember when I watched it, I'm like, you get an idea of it's going to be different. It's going to be on Netflix. It's going to have Kurt Russell. But that's really all. So this one you get to see, where he's trying to ask for help, the journey that they get to go on, the wild adventures they're going to get to go on. You get to see where, they run into the cops a few times. There's a little musical number you just get to see a little piece of where he's at some club and he's, like playing, like singing or something or playing an instrument and people are playing along with him. You get to see a bit of the North Pole, which is really kind of cool. And you get to see in this trailer, too, there's a funny scene where, Santa is annoyed that people keep saying he looks a certain way, and he's like, I don't look that way at all. This isn't a fat Santa. This is not an overweight Santa. Santa's beard and hair is more gray than white. And it's just like, so there's a scene with a Pepsi can, forgive me, where, you see him, see Santa, and he's like, God, do I look like that? That's so, like, is my butt really that big? So it gives you a better taste of this film. And I've been lucky to watch some Netflix exclusive movies in the past. And I'll say this, Netflix knows what they're doing with their exclusive stuff. They did a really good job with Bright. They did a really good job with All the Boys I've Ever Loved Before. So they've done some really good ones in the past, and I think that this one, from what I've seen in this trailer and so far, it looks like it's going to be a really fun movie. It's going to be like, Kurt Russell definitely has a lot of fun in this movie. You can just tell that in this trailer. He's having a blast, not only playing Santa Claus, but definitely bringing, a different kind of Santa than we've seen before, because like I've said, this is not the only Santa film we've ever gotten. It's just the reality. And I think that Netflix, it seems like they were being a little bold at first, but after seeing this trailer, I'm excited for this film. I really am. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to definitely be different. Kurt Russell, looks like, for this portrayal of Santa was actually a really good choice as far as I can tell. And I like this trailer the most because it really gives you an idea, hey, this is what the movie's actually going to be about. This is what happens. This is the predicament Santa's in. This is, where, how he needs help and what's going to happen, and really what they're trying to do just to make sure Christmas still happens. So it's kind of like a race against the clock to try to make Christmas still happen. That's basically what it is. And, even though like every year we get so many, original Christmas tales and brand new ones and new twists on ones and new turns on ones, and it's kind of, sometimes it can get so overwhelming. Like, man, there's, Christmas specials, there's Christmas movies, there's new animated movies, there's new live action movies, there's movies that go to theaters, there's movies that, we've seen before, there's stories we've seen before, there's new twists on stories. With all that being said, I'm excited for this film. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be something I think for everyone to enjoy. I think it's going to be, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be for kids, but I want to say it probably will be, because Netflix does a pretty good job with their kids stuff. I've been lucky to watch a number of their kids shows, and they do a pretty good job of keeping it, kid friendly and having it be fun and exciting. But I've noticed too, there's stuff for older people to enjoy too. So this new trailer is on YouTube. I think it went up live earlier this week, and I'd highly recommend you check it out if you haven't had a chance to yet. This is coming to Netflix November 22nd, so in the next couple of weeks. And if you're like, it looks like, Kurt Russell is going to do a great job in this. I think it's going to be a fun holiday film. I don't know if it's going to turn into a holiday classic like Elf has. I don't know. But I think it's got the potential to. I think it's got potential to be good and to be fun and to be a film that maybe the whole family can watch together. I mean that. So, check this new trailer out. And as far as I could tell in the trailer, Kurt Russell seems like the only really stand apart, like, known person, at least as I could tell in this trailer. But for all we know, there could be cameos in there of other noticeable faces. It's a possibility. It wouldn't surprise me. But this is on YouTube now, and look for this movie in the next couple of weeks. In about maybe a little over 2 weeks is when it's coming. So it is coming a little bit before Christmas, but like I said, Hollywood likes to do that. It's just the way it is. They like to release stuff, before December because maybe they think it's going to give it more momentum, and maybe that's true. I don't know. But other than that, we're going to take ourselves a short little break right now, and we'll be back in a few moments with more sci-fi news.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hello there, everybody. This is Jay, back for some more sci-fi news. So the next film I'm going to talk about is something that I actually got a chance to watch this week. It's another kind of, retelling with new twists and turns story. And, there's been a few versions of the story. I actually was lucky to get to see the ballet once, which was a Nutcracker. I was lucky to see it once. I was probably in my late teens, early 20s when I saw it with my dad. You know what? It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. It was good. I mean, I can't say it blew my mind. I can't say it was as long as some people made it sound like it was. It seemed to be only about maybe an hour or two. So it didn't really drag on like some people think to say it does. And, there was an animated film of this when I was a kid that was kind of a little weird and got a little dark toward the end. There's been some live action versions of this. I haven't personally really watched them too much. But there have been, live action versions of these. There just have been, there's been in the last couple of years, there's been at least a few, if memory serves me. So it's not something like, hey, they've, never done this before, or they've never done a film like this before, or anything like that. It's just not the way it is. So Disney has decided to do a new version called Nutcracker and the Four Realms. This film has Keira Knightley in it. Morgan Freeman is in it. Helen Mirren is in it, and there is also George Lopez is in this, which he plays an interesting little role. And so this film basically is where there's two daughters, there's a son, a younger son, and there's the father, and the mother has supposedly just died. We don't really know why, but she's been dead for a while. I think it's the first Christmas without their mother, and the whole family is kind of a little down in the dumps because man, we miss our mom. She was this great part of the family, and she's just not there anymore, and they're not really even too excited for Christmas because of it. The main character is kind of an inventor. She likes to invent things and tinker with things, and she isn't really your average hey, I love to go to dances and balls and get married kind of girl. She's just not what she is. And so the film starts where they all get a present from their mother, and she gets some kind of strange egg, and she's not really sure what it is, but there's no key for it. So they go to, I want to say it's Drosselmeyer's house, which is their kind of like a grandfather of sorts. I won't say they're actually related, but and that's character is played by Morgan Freeman. And they're there for Christmas Eve, and she talks to him and gets a gift from him, and it's the key, and it takes her to this magical mystical place where there's these four different realms, right? And there's three good realms, there's one bad realm. She finds out she's a princess, that her mother was a queen there, and that the place is kind of in disarray, and that she, is kind of the one who can help bring order back to the place. So it's overwhelming for her from the start. She's like, wait, wait a minute, time out. So I'm a princess. My mom was the queen here. There's all this stuff going on here, and we have the Nutcracker come on early on, who's African American in this, which I think is actually totally fine. It's probably a good idea to do it that way, but so there's that. And Yeah, so the film, starts there and goes around where the fourth realm is this bad, horrible, dangerous place, and the other three realms are these great places. So we get to see, where she goes on a balloon ride and visits all the different realms. There's, a candy realm, there's an ice realm, there's a sweets realm. So there's 3 realms there, right? And she has to go at one point to the fourth realm to get the key to, because she really wants to find out, what is in, because her mom gave her a message that, hey, everything you need is in here, right? That's what happens. And so her mission is to try to just get the key back from the fourth realm, the bad person who stole it there, and pretty much find out whatever mystery is going on. The plus sides of this film is it does have a good cast. It's got very good visuals. Its visuals are very, very well done. They did a very good job with that. There's some cool little nods here and there to the music from the movie. I think Morgan Freeman was a really good choice for Drosselmeyer. He really was. He did a very good job. And, just everything looks really good. It looks really nice. The costumes are really good. George Lopez is actually not too bad as his character. He's a little bit of an odd character, but he's not too bad. The Nutcracker did a very good job choosing him. But at the same time, it has a few issues. It's kind of your typical Disney film. At least I've seen enough Disney films now where some follow a pattern, and this follows said pattern to a T. It just does. It's your typical, hey, the film starts like this, where, okay, this person is bad, this person's good, but actually it turns out that person's good, and this person's bad. It's a little predictable in that sense. A number of Disney films have done that where you think, okay, this person's the bad guy, but you find out, okay, this person is actually the bad guy, not the person you thought who was the bad guy. So it's also a little predictable because of that. There aren't that many surprises. When one person who you think is good ends up being bad, you're like, okay, I kind of saw that coming. It didn't really, I wasn't like, oh my God, that's so shocking. I had no clue that was going to happen. No. I can't say I saw it a mile away, but it didn't really make me go either when it happened. The story is kind of predictable at some parts. It is where good's going to triumph over evil. It's not a big surprise when that happens. Oh my God, I can't believe that. No, not really. And I don't know. It was one of those films where it's good. It's a good film, don't get me wrong. I didn't hate this movie. I didn't hate watching it. It's only about an hour, 40 minutes, so it's not an insanely long movie, and I didn't really feel like it dragged on too long either. It really didn't. It is technically a holiday film, so it's another film that, is coming out in November that they hope will do well in December. And it's just, I don't know, it's one of those films I'm like, I wouldn't mind maybe watching it again, but I wouldn't say it's a you must run out and see it now film. It just didn't feel like that for me. If you've been listening to some of these episodes I've done, I'm a Disney fan. I like Disney movies. I like watching Disney movies. I think Disney movies are a lot of fun. I'm a big kid in that regard, and I'll watch a lot of them. I've seen a lot of their live action stuff and their animated stuff. I grew up on that stuff, so I really like that stuff. So I am definitely a Disney fan. But I don't know, when it just came down to this film, it's good, but I don't know, I guess it had flaws. It did. It just had flaws. It had issues. It had problems. And literally about maybe 2/3 of the way of the film, you're like, I know what's going to happen next. I just know. It's kind of clear what's going to happen, right? It's not a big shock to me. I'm not like, oh man, I just can't believe they just went there. No, I saw they were going to go there. So it's not a bad film. I'm sure kids will really enjoy it. Some kids, when I saw it, were really enjoying it. They had a lot of fun the whole way throughout. Like I said, there's some good casting choices here, but there's also some casting choices I'm like, they're not bad. Like Keira Knightley's character is kind of weird. Yeah, the way she chose to do this kind of weird high squeaky voice with her character, it's kind of weird. It just is. After a while, you're like, God, that's just kind of annoying. It's like, why did you choose to talk that way? I don't fully understand. I mean, did you choose that? Did the director choose that? It's not a perfect film. It's not a bad holiday film, but I think there are definitely better holiday films that are coming out and better holiday films to watch. But if you want a holiday film to take the whole family to see, you know what? I think it's not a bad one to choose. I really don't. I'm really at the place where, it's not a bad film, but it's not a great film. It's a film that, I think will do all right in theaters, but it's probably not going to do as well as they hoped it would. That's just where I think this film is going to go. This film, of course, is in theaters now. And, overall, like I said, it's something that I think you'll have enough fun watching. But I wouldn't say have huge expectations for this film, because if you do, you might be a little disappointed. And I think that's just the truth. So we're going to take ourselves another short little break here. And we'll be back in a few moments with more sci-fi news.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey there, everybody. This is Jay back with some more sci-fi news. So the last one I decided to talk about today on this episode is I brought a book to the last episode, and I said, you know what? Why not bring a comic to the next one? And I think I might start doing that. There's a few comics I've gotten to read lately, DC mostly, that I've really, really enjoyed, and I think I'm going to start talking a little bit on here, because why not? I think it'll be a fun little medium, and most of them do have sci-fi elements in them. They just do. So this I'm going to talk about, this is a character where I have seen him, I watched the whole Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon series they did a couple years back, and I've watched all 4 seasons of that, and this character was very prevalent in that series. I've seen him show up on Young Justice. He was pretty prevalent in that. Also, this character I've seen a pretty good amount in a number of the different DC animated films like Justice League versus Teen Titans. He showed up as well in Justice League The Judas Contract a little bit. He was there in Death of Superman, which came out just recently. So he's been in a number of these different DC properties. And of course, I'm a little behind on it now, but I used to really watch and enjoy the live-action TV show with Grant Gustin. It was really, really great show. I loved how they kind of put new twists on the character and spins, and just did a really good job with the character himself, and the casting, and the stories, and the villains. It just was a really, really good show. And this is The Flash. And so what I want to talk about is there's a graphic novel that just came out recently, called The Flash Starting Line. And if you can believe it, I've actually, until this graphic novel, I had never read any of the Flash comics. I just hadn't. I never had a chance to. I've heard about some of them. DC has gone through a few different changes lately. They had Rebirth at first. No, they had New 52 first, which basically happened actually because of The Flash, if you can believe it. And they showed this on the live-action show in season, I believe it was 2 or 3. I believe it was season 3, actually, if I really look at it, where, Barry Allen, the character had where his mom had died when he was a kid, right? And his dad went to jail for her murder. And on the show, we just saw some yellow blur that took out his mom. And actually in the Flashpoint Paradox, which was an DC movie they did, which I would highly recommend, we got to see this in greater detail, of all the effects that had happened. So what basically happened in a nutshell was, Barry Allen found out he could run fast enough, he could literally go back in time. And so what does he choose to do? He chooses to go back in time and save his mom so she doesn't die at all in the first place. And he does this because he's like, you know what, I can't bear living without her. And on the show, they even had to go so far where his dad gets killed too, so he goes, well, now I don't have either parent, and I really can't, cope with that. So on the show, he decided to run back, and they were both still alive. And it seemed like this great, wonderful thing, and life was all good, but it had repercussions. And in the comics, it went even further to where, he had changed everything to the extent to where, characters looked different, their origins were different. At one point, they even had we saw this in the animated movie just a little bit, where what had happened because of Barry Allen running back in time and saving his mom from being killed was that in the iconic moment in the Batman origin story, where, Bruce Wayne's parents get killed right in front of him, and, it traumatized him, and he eventually becomes the Batman. Well, because of what Barry Allen did, instead, what happened was Bruce Wayne got killed. And his dad eventually became the Batman, and his mom just went nuts and became Joker. So a lot of things happened in the DC comic universe because of what Barry Allen did. And, New 52 came around because it just changed everything so much, more than he probably ever planned it ever could. And recently, in the last few years, they kind of switched things again with Rebirth. That's just what happened, where the characters, were a little different again. They had little different origins and little tweaks and, things here and there. And so in the Flash starting line, what happens in a nutshell is, something happens with a few of the cities where they're just out of power. At one point we get to see Barry Allen go into the Speed Force itself and how crazy that whole place is. He's not with Iris West in this. He's with someone else. And, at one point there's these strange guys who are running around. There's something going on there with that. We actually see him go to Gorilla City, and, Gorilla Grodd shows up. So that happens. And Barry Allen's just kind of trying to get the hang of his powers and discover his powers a bit more. He's got someone helping him, but it's not Dr. Wells. And I really liked this. Like the illustrations are absolutely amazing. Like I said, there's some really cool twists and turns in this story. And it kind of gave me a bit more of a feel, because in this story, I believe Barry Allen had been the Flash for 5-10 years. He wasn't a brand new Flash on the live action series. He just wasn't. He kind of had an idea of his powers and how they work. But he also finds in here, I won't reveal it, but he finds that he has a new power too that he's getting the hang of now. And if that's not enough, some of the bad guys in his rogues gallery, like Captain Cold and Firestorm and people like that, get brand new powers. They pretty much get stronger is what happens. So there's that going on too. So while Barry Allen is trying to worry about all the other things of getting power back to the city and, saving certain people he really cares about, he has to worry about, some of my, strongest foes are coming back stronger than ever before, and I have to find a way to stop them now. So it's really crazy in that respect, but it was a really, really fun story. I had a lot of fun reading it. It's only about maybe 200 pages, maybe a bit less. And it was just a lot of fun. It was kind of cool to finally read a Flash comic, because like I said, I hadn't until I read this one. And I can assure you now, it's not going to be the last. I definitely want to read more Flash comics, that's for absolutely sure. Because, on this live action show and the movies and the TV shows, you only get to see so much of the Flash. And that's just the truth. You do. I mean, heck, in Young Justice, you get to see generations of Flash. It's just what happens. There isn't just, Barry Allen the Flash. There's Kid Flash. There's Impulse. There's Jay Garrick, the original Flash, which we see on the live action series a bit. So, and we have to remember too, at least on the live action series, we've seen, the different universes, the different Earths, where there's 24, 26 of them. So we get to see all that too. So the Flash universe itself, has a lot going on. It just does. And there's a lot, that, and it can affect the DC universe, the comic universe itself in ways that, can really have dire repercussions. So, this comic is available now, this graphic novel, which has 4 or 5 comic stories in it. I would highly recommend, if you haven't read it, to check it out. It's absolutely worth it. It's from DC Entertainment. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. It was pretty easy to burn through it quickly. And, I read a digital copy of it, but I had a lot of fun reading it. I really did. And it touches places that like the animated shows and the even Justice League just wasn't able to touch. Just so it touches a lot of really cool stuff there, and we get to see more about the character and how he's growing and developing, and how he still has a lot of growing and developing to do. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun. So that's about all we have for this episode. I hope you had a wonderful time getting to hear all the cool stuff I brought to you this episode. And we'll be back real soon with more sci-fi news.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.